Hi, my angels. I want to talk about our superpowers or our innate abilities that we've forgotten about. And not just about the abilities. I'm only going to go into one of the abilities, which is our ability to connect with the elements in order to alchemize certain, hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanism, earthquakes, and things like that. Because I don't know, I came across a video last night about Stefan Burns talking about the earthquakes and how he is so good at predicting them, which is like one piece of the puzzle. But it's damaging without the other half of the puzzle, right? Like, in my opinion, this is all from my perspective too, like through my lens. So none of this is set in stone. And you should remember that about anyone that you watch when you hear any piece of information. It's all through that person's lens, through that person's perspective. It doesn't mean that that is the ultimate truth. And, a lot of accounts I think I see or I've seen in the spiritual community, as they grow and as they get more of a following, they sort of take on a God complex, and they start talking to people as though like they'll say things like, you're being lied to about this and you were deceived about this. And it's like they kind of like remove themselves from it as though they're above it all and they were never deceived about this stuff. Or they'll say, like X, Y, and Z is fake, or this is true. This is the ultimate truth. And I'm sure I've probably said things or talked in this way as well. And it's easy for us to fall into that. So I'm trying to point out like different things, not in an attacking way, but in a way that I see things, and in order to help those who are awakening to these abilities or wanting to awaken to these abilities. So, they can see the process that I went through and that I'm going through in deciphering these things, this information as it comes in. And what I mean by damaging is that we create with what we believe. So if, just like I was doing before when I was putting out biblical prophecy things that I thought were taking place, and different things that I was seeing that are fear-based, that are negative, without producing a solution. And I was blind at the time to what I was actually doing, because I'm a baby at this, just like all of us. Like, we're just like getting our feet wet with all of this and not knowing the implications of what we're doing. And I like cringe. I've tried to erase some of the videos that I made previously, because when I go back and listen to it, it's like hearing a whole different person from a different perspective, and I'm just like, what were you doing? Like, holy shit! Like, I was feeding the shadow, and I was feeding the creation of our downfall. And so I just want to be clear that, like, it's not that somebody's bad that is doing something like this. It's just that we are ignorant to what we are actually doing. And that's just part of the process of learning, which is why we have the power of life or death on our tongue. And what we hear, we have to be careful of, because if we hear something and then believe it, it will start manifesting in reality. So I just want to highlight certain things that have been brought to my attention specifically for me to talk about in order to, and this is just through the lens and perspective on the ladder of truth that I'm at this point. So there's much higher understanding than what I have, for sure. Like, I'm at the bottom of the ladder working my way up, but I want to share what I have learned and hope to shed light on these things for the rest of the community, spiritual community in particular, but everyone as a whole, because we are one, we are a whole. And hopefully, like, as people come into their abilities and start learning about these things, they'll be able to jump over the mistakes that I made previously. So last night, what prompted me to actually make this video was, again, Stefan's post last night about how he was able to predict the earthquakes, and he's done so many times, which is an amazing piece of the puzzle. And what I was saying to him is, hey, let's pair your predictive abilities with the alchemy that I've learned. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, this person learned this. It's just like me getting the information out there will hopefully prompt him to share this with his community. So that way we can take both pieces of this puzzle and pair them together in order to prevent these catastrophic events in advance. And somebody had commented on my comments and said, what are the mechanisms behind this? And so I just want to explain a little bit about that. So it's just like remote viewing, which remote viewing proves that the space between you and I, the space between the Western world and the Eastern world is an illusion. And I think that, I've said it before, is a great place to start if you don't know that already, because it's in these things that you learn, that you hear, that unlocks the knowing within each of us. So I always reference Russell Targ's band TED Talk on remote viewing as like a great place to start with that. And it's just showing that the space between all of us and the world is an illusion, and that we can travel anywhere we want to in our mind just by picturing it. And everything broken down in its simplest form is conscious energy. And if you think about what Nikola Tesla said in terms of thinking of energy, frequency, and vibration being the simplest forms of everything. So we are one with everything and not separate. Like, we are nature. And I'm adding a clip from a movie that I saw to give an understanding of this. But this understanding allows us to know that we can work with our surroundings in a harmonious way. And this is how people are able to connect with the elements and become fluid with them and work as one to bring harmony to whatever it is that you want to bring harmony to. And just to bring up an example that most people know, it's in the biblical stories. When they talk about quote unquote Jesus, which we know isn't his name, how he was able to walk on water or instantly calm a storm. And, a lot of people will say, well, that's not literal, and they'll try to explain it away. But it is actually literal. Just like the ability to fly. Now, a lot of people will hear that and think, oh, that's crazy. However, it's the same type of thing. Like if you think of anti-gravity, it's the same thing, but doing it with your body. So we do have the ability to fly. And it's interesting because over the last 5 months, I've had multiple dreams of, and I don't know if I was tapping into a parallel timeline or not, where I was practicing these things. But in each part of the dream, each time I've dreamt about this, it's like I'm practicing it and learning it and getting better and better at it. And it's just taking away the false belief that we can't. That's it. It's just overcoming that. And again, being fluid with the elements. So I'll go into a brief story. Well, you know me, brief. It's probably going to be like 5 minutes, but a story that I have that really solidified for me that space was an illusion.